Hey, hello, my friends. Here we are. It is the 18th of October. No, 18th of November 2020. Still, it's Chat with Matt. Welcome, Matt Montara here to shoot the breeze for about half an hour or so. They tend to run a little over these days. Can't go too far over because I've got another call scheduled. Hey, Sister Jane. So we are here to answer any questions that you might have. I am just on my way to finding if anyone wrote in anything ahead of time. Actually, I remember someone writing in something ahead of time last night before I departed for sleep. Here we go. Allow yourself to connect with the knowing what serves you. Knowing what it serves you to know. Be satisfied with just knowing what it serves you to know, and let go of the egoic need to know everything. That was a poster from 2016. Decided to repost it along with this. I'm just trying to find the right water because one of them is full of magnesium and other good stuff, and the other one isn't. I put some sea salt in there as well, but of course I use the sea salt that's got little bits of kelp floating in it, so it increases the iodine level naturally. So it looks like a little bit of a doesn't look so appetizing. It's got a little bit of kelp floating through my drinking water, but you know, I have never been one to be concerned about such stuff. Hey, Sister Stephanie. Never been one. It's a really good idea though, just putting about 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt or Himalayan salt or Celtic salt or some other good salt in your per litre, 1/4 teaspoon per litre in your drinking water, just to up the electrolytes, basically, the minerals. Because we're all short of them, basically, especially at this time when there's so much energy pouring through. If you don't have if your body's not conducting energy well, you're going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel like you become a resistor, right? If you don't conduct. And resistors get hot. And we all know that resistance is not fun. So in order for our biology, Eve wants to be in your video. Oh, good on you, Eve. Biology, I don't know how to deal with that. Biologically wise, we all need help at this stage to allow the energy to flow through, because our biology is certainly on this journey with us, with our emotionality and our mentality and our spirituality, where we're shifting a lot of energy right now. There's a lot of energy pouring in, there's a lot of energy changing, and the more that you can conduct energy, the easier you can conduct energy, the easier you can change, the easier you can let go of the charge, the easier you can allow charge to change in your physicality, the more comfortable your body's going to be. So look at your mineral content, my friends. I've started taking a magnesium supplement that's called Remag. I do actually have a code that will give you 15% off. I should post that, right? I found it to be very good. I have only just started. I'm building up with it because obviously magnesium is one of those things you just don't want to pump into your body, or you end up spending far too long on the toilet. But Remag is a very, very good one, an ionic sort of liquid form of it that apparently, according to the literature, supplied by the supplier, of course, it's 100% absorbable, which is a far cry from most magnesium capsules and stuff, which are anywhere between 4 and 20% absorbable. Anyway, let's have a look at these questions, because Zena wrote in and Eve wrote in. Yep, that's an awesome question, Eve, but I'll get to Zena first. Okay, so Zena wrote in, when faced with multiple decisions about any particular situation, what are some good indicators to let us know a choice is more aligned or less aligned with our path or purpose? This is great, right? Hey, Sister Donna, this is great because it's very, very pertinent at the moment with the disintegration that's happening, with the chaos and the conflict that's out there in the world. We're faced with many, many choices, not the least of which is to decide what to believe. Not that that's really such a choice, right? Because as I put the poster on, we don't need to know what we don't need to know. So a lot of the times our egos are really, really contracted around wanting the correct information, because then we think that we're safer. If we know what's really happening, then we can make a choice that's going to best benefit us. And I get that, right? That's logic, and the mind runs in logic. But the point is, at the moment, it is very, very, very hard to discern, at least intellectually, from the external what do we call that? External factors, if a piece of information is true or false, or whether it's even beneficial to you or not. Hey, Sister Donna and Patricia, welcome. Please feel free to write in at any stage, and I'll get to it. I'm just answering a question that was written in ahead of time by Zena. So let go of trying to make too many decisions about what information is true or false, and be willing to assume that all information is both true and false, which is pretty much the truth anyway, right? It's true to someone and it's false to someone else. So letting go of trying to ascertain whether information is correct or not just for the basis of your own satisfaction is going to help you relax a lot. And just to let the information flow through, take notice of what feels appropriate to you without having to determine whether it's true. Because information doesn't need to be true to actually benefit you, nor if it's false, is it absolutely dangerous to play with that information. Because information stimulates an experience, and the experience may well serve you. Ultimately for me, and I know this isn't quite answering the question yet, ultimately for me, what I do to help myself relax and move through this world more comfortably and effectively is to hold very strong intentions that I fortify and reinforce and maintain my intentions through, my practices, my meditation, and my, I wouldn't call them affirmations, but I have I wouldn't even call it a protocol, but the consistency of the thoughts that I have around the idea that everything that's happening to me is benefiting me, even if it's uncomfortable, that what I'm feeling is coming up to release, when it's intense. Right? The more often I maintain that attitude to these experiences here, the more that I can relax into trusting that I'm going to make good choices for myself. The trick to making good choices, when faced with multiple decisions, is about staying out of the stress of trying to get it right. I'll say that again. The trick to making good decisions, especially when there's multiple options and it's looking quite complicated, is to relax out of the stress of trying to get it right and come back to, I'm going to trust myself to make a decision here that benefits me. Because the truth is, the great thing about that is, it's hard to measure whether you got it right or wrong, which is perfect. Because one of the things that keeps us in low states of self-worth, which then influences much of what we attract to ourselves, much of what we can receive, and I'm working with the energy, the topic of receptivity, empowered receptivity this month in the Mantara Transformation Empowerment Sport community. What limits our ability to receive is our judgment on ourselves, our perceived level of worth, right? It isn't just a perceived level of worth, because it's us who perceives our worth, and then usually chokes our ability to receive based on the fact that we don't feel worthy. But it's not based on our true worth. It's not based on the value that we be to the universe, of course, because we're divine, infinite, magnificent beings who are infinitely valuable. So, of course, it's not based on that. It's based on our perception of ourselves, which quite often is influenced by our judgments, whether we're getting things right or wrong, whether we're succeeding or not, whether we're capable of manifesting, whether we're capable of intuiting. For spiritual beings, we want to think that we want to be more intuitive, and therefore we always want to measure how intuitive we are, right? We want to think that we can pick the winner and then see if we get the results, right? That's logical, isn't it? And then when we come up short, when we don't do it, or we only do it 3 out of 5 times, or we only do it 2 out of 5 times, or we only do it 1 out of 5 times, whatever, or however we're testing ourselves, then we influence the worthiness that we feel based on those results. And none of that serves us, because it's always going to be less than who we truly are. So one of the ways, whatever way you can use to get out of going back in hindsight and judging whether you get things right, whether you're successful, is valid. And so for me, it's getting out of the idea that I want to get it right, that I'm trying to get it right even. I'm no longer trying to get it right, because I realize that right and wrong are just relative to a particular perspective. And that perspective might not be a perspective that actually serves me. So letting go of getting it right and wrong and just choosing what benefits me. Then to top that, right, so now I'm choosing to make choices based on what benefits me, and then I hold an intention that I don't know what benefits me, right? Now I've let myself completely off the hook. Hey, Emily, hey, Kelly, I've let myself completely off the hook, because now I'm making choices that I can't measure whether I get it right. I'm just making the choice based on the intention to do what serves me, even though I believe that I don't know what serves me, right? Through experience, I've come to realize that many of the things that I thought were going to serve me, that were beneficial, turned out to be a complete shit show, and wasn't anything that I wanted, and yet it felt beneficial. And things that I thought were non-beneficial, in hindsight, I realize how much that pushed me in a direction that has turned out to be very beneficial. So I understand that I just don't know, especially in the moment, if something's beneficial or not. And my job is just to assume that it is, right? This is beneficial. I'm choosing that this benefits me, because the truth is, if you choose that it benefits you, then you get the benefit from it. If you've already made the decision that this isn't benefiting me, how much benefit do you think you get from that, right? If you're already holding the intention or the belief that it's not beneficial, right? You basically, again, you just choke yourself off from receiving the benefit because you've already decided that it's not beneficial. Of course, sometimes we wake up and go, oh, wow, I really see the benefit in this. We do experience grace on this planet, thankfully, luckily for us. And our higher self does have more of a hand in things. But we, the personality, do have quite an influence in how much we receive, how much we shut ourselves down to, how much things can benefit us or not, based on our mentality, our perspective, and our emotionality to a certain situation, and our stress levels. The more stressed we are, the less we can receive, the less we can grow, the less we can change. You know, I was talking about, when I started the call, I was talking about electrolytes and, you know, just putting a quarter teaspoon of salt in your water. And I was mentioning that because I chose the salt that's got the little bits of kelp in it for the iodine. So I've got little bits of kelp floating in my drinking water, which many people would think is yuck, but I actually quite enjoy it. And I'm putting some magnesium, liquid magnesium in there as well, because, you know, I've been doing a lot of research about magnesium deficiency, and I realized that I tick some of those boxes. And so wouldn't that be great, right? If I could just supplement my way out of some discomforts that I'm feeling on this planet right now. And I know that the more conductive my physicality is, my biology is, the more comfortably I'm going to be able to shift the massive amounts of energies that I'm called to shift at the moment. So similarly, you know, stress plays a similar role in our body as electrolytes. And when we are stressed, we basically choke, we're tight, and energy can't flow through us. And when we are relaxed, we're more loose, and energy can flow through more comfortably. We get out of resistance. When we're in stress, we're naturally in resistance. Everything is perceived as a threat when we are in stress, and thus we contract around it. I haven't done a very good job of answering Zena's question yet. So I'm going to read the question again, and then I'm going to attempt to allow the answer to flow through. Hey, Sister K. When faced with multiple decisions about any particular situation, what are some of the good indicators to let us know a choice is more aligned or less aligned with our path and purpose? So, firstly, choosing to relax. You have to choose to relax when you are contemplating the choices rather than be stressed, so that you can feel in that more relaxed state what lights you up and what contracts you, what feels more expansive in your heart. Hey, Sister Carolyn, I had to think then, CM. What do you feel in your chest? What do you feel in your breath? For me, I use a tool. Well, I used to use it a lot more. Now I just sort of trust that I make the right decisions, and sure enough, I tend to right decisions, most beneficial decisions, right? I just trust that I spontaneously come to the quote unquote the right decision. Before I used to test it, you can use pendulums, you can use cards, you can use applied kinesiology, right? You can do muscle testing. Some people like to do this one where they pull the things. Some people, what's that other one? You can do a squeezy one with a spring. You can do the body sway where you stand up straight and allow yourself to lean forward for one answer. Just be careful. A lot of people say if you lean forward, it's yes. I always just test that at the start by basically saying yes, yes, positive, positive, and see. I just fell forward. See which way you go, because sometimes when I do that, I go backwards, and then I just come back to center and just center myself and go no, 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 and I go forward and I go, oh, that's interesting. Always good to do that before you ask the question. Would something benefit me? Because and you have to understand all of those things are a little bit limited. They are all limited because you get your body's influence. It's the energy, and that's not the highest answer. It can be very much influenced by your belief systems. I know. I always say, please, higher self, influence this decision so that I get the most beneficial outcome if I'm choosing to do that. And I still do that sometimes, especially when someone asks me, should I euthanize my dog? It's like, oh, fuck. What a question to have to answer for someone, right? And so, I tune in and try and tune into the dog, and then quite often I'll verify it with some sort of kinesiology or something, and I just have to trust myself. It's a shit of a question. It's not particular. I'm not saying please don't ever ask me that question. I'm here to serve people as best I can, and I realize that is an incredibly hard place for someone to be. And there's so many conflicting opinions around it, and it's very hard to follow what you feel in your heart. But one of the best ways of doing it, so that was all the ways that are much more obvious, but one of the ways that I really like is just when you have a choice, imagine yourself having made the choice in one particular direction, and then take a deep breath. And just feel how loose or how accepting your breath is of the choice that you've made. And then quite often you'll need to compare it. So just think of yourself having made another choice, because quite often there's more than two, right? There might be five, right? Think of yourself having made the other choice and see, just imagine how you think that would look if you've made that choice, and take another breath. And just feel how expansive it feels in your chest to do that, right? That I found a pretty good way of getting biofeedback, right? To how expansive a choice appears. I will caveat that again and remind you that it's always helpful to set the ground rules around, the way that you are languaging. Is this the best choice rather than is this the right choice? Because right and wrongs are always, hey, brother Adam, are always subject to, I think I just missed someone else too. I do like to say, hey, Pamela, always subject to the framework. So if you're looking for the right choice, then you're going to be always a little bit confused as to what the right perspective is. If you're looking for the most beneficial choice for yourself or for others, then you will get an influence based on that as well. And as I was saying a little earlier, it's hard to know what's beneficial, which then has the advantage that you don't judge it in hindsight. Oh, that wasn't what I was expecting, therefore I got it wrong. No, you might not have got it wrong. This might be the most beneficial, even though it wasn't what you expected, even though it wasn't what your ego wanted. Oh, I wanted the easiest option. Yeah, I know, but really, you're not here to have an easy run on this planet. You are here to benefit. You're here to expand. You're here to be the greatest version of yourself. And sometimes that means we need to be willing to wade through the difficulties in order to clear ourselves and prepare ourselves so that we can have the most purposeful, beneficial, expansive expression of self here on this planet. How did that go? I think we got there. God, it's 20 minutes into the call. I will add on now what Sister Eve said. She loves the question from Zina. Also, Matt, I'm curious about chakras because I met someone who communicated with other people's higher selves a long time back who also told me that our chakra system are implants and that we don't need them. I kept myself neutral about this, and I have enjoyed visualizing using the figure 8 within myself many times, but any more information about living without chakra system has never shown itself to me. Yeah, So this is interesting. I believe the chakras do have a limited life, a limited necessity. I don't, you could call them implants, but I don't think they're malicious implants. They're a way of dealing with, during these times of dense energy, we have used our chakras to bring energy into and out of our bodies. No doubt about that. They have served us well through these times. As we evolve, we do outgrow the need for those particular forms of chakras, the initial 7 that we visualize with the vortex and all the rest of it. But the energy centers don't really leave us, right? I believe that I'm not using my original chakras anymore, and I'm not going to get too deep into that right now. And I don't talk about it because you don't need to talk about it. It just happens, right? And some of us become aware of it. Some of us, receive various pointers to look in this direction by people turning up in our life and saying, hey, I don't think the chakras, and you go, that's interesting. I always thought they were important, right? Due to my yoga training, we talked about the chakras and all the rest of it. But that stuff was written thousands of years ago. What is really happening, and when we tune into it, what structures do we have? And if you talk to people who actually can see energy, what do they see in various people who are on various levels of ascension? So it turns out, as I believe it, and I can't really verify this with my own data, hard data, right? I haven't done Kerlin photography to show that the chakras are, but the point being, we can all say neutral to this idea of chakras, because over time, as we become more spiritual, that's a shit term to say, isn't it? As we become more aligned with the truth of who we be and less contracted and contained by the matrix, by the 3D world, we don't need our chakra systems as much, and they start to release. And we use a different system that's more subtle. It becomes more subtle, but there's still similarities there. We still have an energy center in our, what we would call our solar plexus, right? But it's, for me anyway, it's not that same old chakra that used to be there. It's a different structure, right? We still have our heart center. We still express through our throat, and our, our pineal gland is still an important part of our inside, and right, so we can still feel energy moving through this place in the body, even though we might not have exactly the same energetic structure as the sixth chakra used to be. So we start allowing our being to operate in different ways. The groundwork of the chakras is still there. We still have energy channels through the biology, and energy still flows through those channels. And where those energy points cross over, there's still nodes of energy. But it's just that, and I don't believe they're implanted. I believe that's part of our biology. So the point is, don't contract around chakra, in my opinion, right? And you have to do this and do that and do that. As you evolve, and there's reason, and balancing stuff and noticing stuff in the chakras at a certain stage of your evolution is valid. I believe it's valid too, because that's the way we are processing a lot of the world, through receiving that energy through that particular structure, because that is our habit and that is the pathway, and that's all we're capable of until we're capable of something more. So something more is more expansive but more subtle, and that those vortexes tend to dissolve. Again, what I caution you about is trying to measure how far I am. Are my chakras still working? Have I got rid of my chakras? Am I this or am I that? It doesn't freaking matter. Are you living a good life or not? That's all that matters. Are you living a life that feels purposeful or not? That's all that matters. Are you joyful on this planet? Are you contributing to this planet? Because that's all that matters. Where you are on the ladder, it doesn't freaking matter, because there's no end to the ladder, right? You can't be 20% up the ladder if there's an infinitely long ladder, right? I know we set artificial goals. When can I ascend off the planet? Oh yeah, that's a definite point. But trying to get there, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because all you do when you start measuring your progress is create stress. All you do is create stress, and that stress actually slows you down. Yeah, the chakras do still exist. There's no way, and there's no two ways about that, Carolyn. I'll read it somewhere. I'll read it here, wherever it is. Hello, come on, computer, because I finished reading things here. As you're talking about the chakras, I've gone very tingling. I have a feeling that the chakras still exist, but as we ascend, they become multidimensional and no longer just physically based. Yeah, Exactly, as I said, they become more subtle. So they're not nearly the vortex pumping energy from this 3D world through this body to sustain our auric or our etheric field. We transcend that, and that function actually diminishes because it's no longer necessary. Our energy is flowing through in a more multi-dimensional way, if you want to use that term, right? In a more rarefied way, and we're not so reliant on the flow of energy on the 3D world. We supersede that a little bit, and that's kind of, we can talk about moving into 5D versus 3D and all of that. And again, people contract and want to know where they are on that path. Am I still in 3D? Am I in 5D? We're all in both, of course. Some people are more, concentrated on the 3D world, and some people are more clinging and more open to the 5D world, but we're all existing in both together, and that's fine, right? It's not really everyone wants to be so polar opposite, so binary, yes or no. It's 5D or 3D. No, it's going to be both for a long time. It's going to be both for a long time. So get out of the absolutes. Am I this or am I that? Am I spiritual yet or not? It's ridiculous. Am I intuitive or not? Am I an intuitive? Yeah, that's a great. Well, do you want to call yourself an intuitive? Because if you do, you are. Because there's no line in the sand where one side you're not and one side you are. That's arbitrary. It's arbitrary, and all of us can become more intuitive, as we will, and all of us, are somewhat intuitive. Go away notifications. So. Let go, because all of these judgments, this is what it is, right? Am I this or am I that? It's a judgment, yes or no. It can be, maybe it's not a judgment, it can just be an awareness. But the point is, it just creates stress trying to get on the right side of an arbitrary line that you can actually move the line. That's the joke of it, right? Or, you can move the line, but perhaps someone else has drawn the line in the sand for you, and someone else is measuring you, and that's not empowered, right? So rather than having to move the line for yourself, just scrub the line out and forget that there ever was a line, because there isn't really one, and allow yourself to progress as you naturally progress. Trying to progress more quickly, or trying to progress more effectively, or trying to progress more obviously so others can tell that you're progressed. It's a farce, right? Just relax and be the best version of yourself in any particular moment, and just don't worry about where you might be on any particular person's arbitrary scale of measurements, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help you be the best version of yourself. It doesn't help you be joyful on this planet. It doesn't help you be happy. So let go of all of that. Thank you, calendar. God. Just let go of all of that and enjoy your time here, because the more joy that you embrace, the more that you will expand, and the more beneficial or purposeful you will be on this planet, and the more you will actually benefit. You will benefit from being here on this planet. The more that you relax. Relaxation is really the key, my friends, whatever it takes to do that. And I will remind you, as I've reminded myself and many others so many times, that relaxation is not just lying in a hammock drinking a pina colada or any other drink of your choice. Relaxation is not rest. Rest is a pathway, potentially, to helping you relax. But relaxation truly is just letting go of stress. That's what, when I say just relax, I'm not saying don't do nothing and rest. I'm saying let go of stress. We are saying let go of stress. So relax means find peace in the current situation. It means come to allowance of the current situation. It means come to acceptance that what is happening, and contracting around it, being stressed about it, is not helping you. So relax around that, move into trust that it's benefiting you, even if you're not liking it, and then make a decision, a choice, a path of action that feels appropriate to you based on your current experience, and then relax again. Trust that you've made a choice, and you're going to work with that choice until you feel to make another choice. And that could be in 5 minutes time, or it could be in 5 years time. It doesn't really matter. Whenever we make a choice, it doesn't need to be forever, right? It'd be great for us all to let go of the wrongness of changing our mind, because that is very counter-evolutionary. I was talking to someone earlier on a call, and I can't remember when, about loyalty. Someone asked me, maybe it was on the weekend on my Drops of Light, which is in my other group. Someone asked me about, I think it was then anyway, about, you know, being loyal to a promise that they'd made, or whether they should go with what they feel now. And it's kind of like, well, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Staying loyal to your promises is one way to stay very, very stuck in old energies, because you made that promise in the past. You made it in the past based on different evidence, different information, and now you have evolved and your body of knowledge has evolved and you may see things in different ways. Things have been revealed to you. Why would you stick to the old promise, right? Eventually we get to the place where we just stop making promises, because we understand that a promise is very, very immature, really. Because no one keeps a promise for any long length of time. Because why would you? Why would you? It's crazy. It has been held up on a very high pedestal that we should honor our word, and that our word is very important, that we honor it. But that only keeps us stuck, my friends. And, you know, as I shared on that call, I've got some very old, painful memories from other lifetimes where I, you know, was adamant that I should keep my word in certain situations, to the non-benefit of many, many, many individuals. And I still am working through the repercussions, the various layers of guilt and shame around those choices, right? To honor my word, to maintain allegiances based on information that I had at the time that then was shown to be quote unquote false or evolved, changed, and yet I still thought, due to the energies of the day, that the most appropriate thing to do, the most honorable thing to do, was to keep my word and keep supporting something that was no longer working for the light as I felt it should be. Anyway, so, you know, that's just an example of how things change, and we've all, you know, fought and died for kings over the years based on our word, and it's ridiculous, of course. We make a decision to align with someone based on the energy of that moment. As things change, we're completely allowed, I'll just use that, in our right to change our allegiances, right? As we see that allegiance isn't working anymore, it's not helpful anymore, it's not beneficial anymore, therefore we change it. And so honoring your word is a crazy, crazy thing to do. Promises, you know, contracts, they're on the way out. They're yesterday's energy. They're yesterday's energy. We're moving into a world where we will no longer make promises and contracts. I don't know when we will completely stop doing that, but we will start to see that people won't even want to hold us to account to a promise or an agreement we made in the past. People will get to the place where they won't want to receive, you know, let's just talk about a normal supply and receive contract, right? I'm going to sell you my zucchini at such and such a price moving into the future, right? If we see that the conditions change, we're not going to be held to that contract. No one's going to want to hold us to that contract. Hey, Sister Demetria, no one's going to hold us to that contract because they're going to want us to be happy. And if we're not happy in a particular agreement, then they're not going to want to receive our goods. No one's going to want to receive something from someone who's not giving it from a space of love and joy. So contracts are going to sort of lose their importance on this planet, and we're going to be much more open to evolving energies, you know, of agreements made in a moment where there is always scope for renegotiation, and no one's going to be held down. No one's going to get screwed down to a choice we made. We're not going to compete to win contracts. We're going to make choices of who we work with based on alignment, based on the energy. And when energies shift, we're going to renegotiate. We're going to change because energies have shifted. That's going to happen in a business sense. It's also going to happen in an interpersonal sense. And I believe marriage vows are going to definitely change. I don't believe people are going to get so contracted around the rightness of, oh, I fell in love with this person at 22, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with them. Then at the age 34, they've turned into a complete a-hole. And why would I spend the next 50 years with them, right? That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Why would we do that to ourselves? It's been held on a very high pedestal. That's the right thing to do. But I think that's eroding away, and people are realizing that's a crazy thing to do. But we're going to change how we set it up so that expectation of marriage is not going to be the same. And people are already doing that. They're writing their own vows, and they're softening a lot of the harshness of those promises that were made in front of God and church and family, that we were going to, you know, stick by each other no matter what sort of person they turned into, which is, you know, it's just not very smart, because it gives people complete permission to be complete, you know, to not actually care how they treat someone because that person's made a promise to stay with them. That's not smart, is it? It's just not smart, and it's not very spiritual, and it's not very beneficial. So all of that's, you know, in the process of changing, I believe. Naturally, people are just waking up to that. It's not going to be a quick overnight thing, but that same energy of giving ourselves permission to keep changing our mind is very evolutionary and very helpful. Now, of course, the shadow side of changing your mind is that whenever something gets hard, you just go, oh, this is too hard, and back out of it. That's not helpful either, because a lot of people say, oh, look, it's not in alignment anymore because it's got hard. No, what's happened is your resistance has come up. That's not you going out of alignment. That's not that this thing is no longer beneficial. This is actually how it is benefiting you. It has stimulated resistance in you. And your job now is to step past that resistance so that you can become free of that resistance. And that is how making that choice would actually benefit you to keep going. So how do we tell the difference? That's the point. And the only way to do it, in my opinion, is self-inquiry, right? To meditate, to spend time. And it doesn't necessarily mean sitting in lotus and chanting Om. When I say meditate, it might be walking along the river. It might be sitting on the beach. It might be doing some freaking coloring or painting or whatever. Gives you that access to deeper knowing about what would actually benefit you, what would actually serve you. And, you know, finding this balance between going with the energy flow and not just backing out of anything that gets hard because that feels uncomfortable, that mustn't be in alignment, right? No, that's not the truth, right? Discomfort is not a way of measuring whether something's in alignment or not, right? It is not a way. I feel uncomfortable about doing some of the things that have been most beneficial, most expansive for me. I have felt incredible discomfort about doing some of the things that have been most beneficial and expansive for me and for those around me. So it is not a way of measuring whether something's right or wrong. And please don't allow yourself to get into that state where you keep trying to avoid discomfort because you will stay stuck and live a very mediocre life doing so. We must be willing to step past discomfort. And at the same time, we don't cling on to discomfort. It doesn't need to be uncomfortable, that's the right word. It doesn't need to be uncomfortable, but quite often it is. So it's not that we're martyrs and we keep going looking for the most uncomfortable, but the point is we shouldn't shy away from discomfort when it arises, especially if it's just part of history and the resistance that history has left us with. That was Chat with Matt. Hopefully I've answered questions that might have arisen. Hey, Sister Rosie. Contracts are very yesterday's energy, Demetria. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you all so much, my friends, for stimulating an awesome conversation. It was awesome for me anyway. I felt great. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. As long as I have a good time doing these things, I'll keep turning up and doing them. As I said right at the very, very, very start of my Facebook Live journey, this is just like self-therapy, right? I freaking sit here and talk to my own reflection in the camera about what's really going on. The fact that you guys benefit from that as well is a bonus. So I'll be back this time next week for my next my next iteration of self-therapy. You're welcome to join me. Much love. Bye for now, my friends. Namaste. Where do I stop this thing?